Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique with my co-host Vince, and today we are excited to bring to you one of our local veterans and champions in law enforcement, but we're going to let Vince introduce.
Absolutely. I'm just so excited. We have with today Dennis Lemma, who is the sheriff of Seminole County, Florida, who is from Oviedo, Florida. And we just are so excited to talk about our first responders doing some great things in our community. So first, Sheriff Lemma, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, great seeing you guys again, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm a public servant and happen to serve right now as the Seminole County Sheriff, which, I've been a part of this agency now for 30 years, and have had the opportunity to ascend the ranks, and it kind of builds on the Marine Corps experience. But as long as I can remember, I always wanted to serve people, and sometimes people have asked me in the past, when did you know that you wanted to join the military or be in law enforcement? And I say half jokingly, as soon as I was old enough to know that superhero was not a true occupational choice, I wanted to find a calling that got me closest to the feeling. And I would tell you, the men and women that put the uniform on, whether for the military or for law enforcement, are truly ambassadors of that spirit. And I'm just so proud to work with them every single day. I'm a husband and a father of two boys. I can't say little boys anymore because my oldest is 17, will be 18 soon, and he's taller than I am. And and my youngest is 13, and my wife Diana works in law enforcement as well. We met here, many years ago, and she's got nearly just shy of 30 years of experience as well. I think it's 28 years now.
Wow, what a history, what a rich history, law enforcement. Thank you for the service in the Marine Corps. I know it laid a foundation for you. We were just talking about a talk that you gave on leadership with the Camaraderie Foundation that I still remember today. I'll never forget your Colin Powell approach. Lord bless him. He just passed away not so long ago, but I'll never forget that. So your leadership trajectory has led you through all the ranks throughout the last 30 years in the, Seminole County. Tell us a little bit about the sheriff's office.
Well, the sheriff's office, a lot of people are surprised to learn that, the sheriff is very, very unique. Actually, the history of the sheriff dates back all the way to early days of rule, king's rule in England and Ireland, where the king would find two people to work directly with them. One was the hand to the king, and other was the reeve. And a reeve is a word to explain and kind of define a guardian. And what would happen is the king would have various rules. The shires were basically the forerunner to the modern day counties, but the reeve of the shire became the shire reeve in this country in the 1600s, and ultimately sheriff as we know it today. And the sheriff is unique because it is the only law enforcement official in the country that is elected by the people to serve the people. There's not another elected law enforcement leader, which brings with it four fundamental responsibilities. Sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of a county. And although we've got great working relationship with our municipal, state, and federal partners, in the end of the day, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of a county. The sheriff is also, the less known fact, the chief administrative and executive officer of the circuit and county courts. That's a big responsibility to provide safety and security to the judiciary. The sheriff is also the chief correctional officer of the county here in Seminole County, and that's granted by approval by our Board of County Commission. And then lastly, by Constitution, the sheriff is the conservator of the peace. And over the years, we've expanded that role. Now we have nearly 1,500 members of the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, an annual operating budget of about $150 million, which makes us one of the largest employers in Seminole County. But yet we still have a down-home spirit of mom and pop type of business where we try to provide this more intimacy to the members who choose to serve with us here at the office. So it's a little bit about our office and the Office of Sheriff and responsibilities.
Well, thank you for that. And all you do here in Seminole County is wonderful. I'm a Seminole County resident. I love the fact that we have great service in the community from our sheriff's office, and it transcends throughout the networks of nonprofits, veterans, and all aspects of life. So appreciate everything you all are doing. And now we had going on 2 years of the pandemic. How has that affected or influenced the sheriff's office as a whole?
Well, I think it's been incredibly difficult, to say the least, because not only are we looking to protect our citizens in any way that we can without ever compromising their constitutional rights, but we're trying to protect our staff. Unfortunately, we had one of our correctional supervisors, a veteran in his own right, pass away from COVID during this outbreak. Sergeant James LaRue, a Marine Corps veteran, a wonderful family. We have a veterans pod on the inside of our correctional facility that is running in his name and honor. It's one of the passions that he had, to address folks with mental illness, but also running a correctional facility. It's a 1,400 bed facility. You can imagine the challenge with incarcerating people that may be committing crime on the streets, and then having to provide a level of safety before somebody enters into general population. They have to make sure that they test clean from the COVID virus. Because if they don't, they will get back in, they will contaminate the larger population. I think right now with the new strand, we have maybe 80 of our members that are positive and not able to work as a result of it. But it's incredibly difficult. We have some non-traditional things that people don't think of, like we have a couple of 100 people that are civilians that work in our communication center. And when other employers were able to provide remote working and distancing and moving around and about, people who work in a call center are not able to do that. So it has been a challenge. I'm proud of our team, how they've adjusted, how they have adapted. I know that having advanced technology, meaning issuing all of our members cell phones and issuing all of our members computers, we have been incredibly productive, but we still try to do as much remotely as we can. I think we've been thrusted into this world now, like we're meeting today, where we're having meetings and we're able to collaborate with use of technology.
Yeah, I could see how those challenges, could cause a lot of headaches, and the world has dealt with many different challenges. A call center, which I've been part of, in emergency management, I know that that's something that you just can't sparse out and just allow things to happen from home, right? It's just one of those things that, first of all, it's secure space. There's a lot of data that's going through it. So I understand the challenges full well. Now, you mentioned earlier, you guys end up being one of the greatest or the biggest employers with the amount of folks that you have as part of the sheriff's office. What is on the horizon for the sheriff's office?
Well, we're doing some really, really exciting things. With the current workforce, there's a couple of things that I want to highlight that may be new to some of your viewers or listeners. Like one, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office has taken on exclusive responsibility for all abuse, neglect, and abandonment of children. We're only one of 7 counties in the state of Florida that have taken on that responsibility, and it works incredibly well. We feel that if we respond to a theft of a bicycle immediately, we should also respond immediately to any allegations of abuse, neglect, or abandonment, and that's unique. We feel like that we can provide our families with a customized service. In addition to that, we run our code enforcement here at the sheriff's office. And what is very, very unique, I don't know that there's another county in the state of Florida that does this, is we run juvenile probation here. And this is because of a great, healthy working relationship with our Board of County Commissioners. So Out of the 1,500 members, we have about 800 that are civilians. So that's unique. But what's on the horizon for us is we have always felt as an agency that crime is a symptom of another problem, that in order to make our community safer, to reunite families and quite literally save lives, we must address those underlying conditions that lead people down the path to commit crime in the first place. And towards the top of that list are substance use disorder, mental health, and poor parenting. And if I can just take just a moment to focus on those three areas, we have been incredibly effective with our collaborative approach to address substance use disorder. We've created the first of its kind public-private partnership with Advent Health. We have a building that is directly across from our correctional facility that once upon a time was a work release center and a probation office. When we went into a COVID type of environment and we promoted a remote working environment, we worked with the county commission to transform that building and then ultimately give it over to Advent Health, where any person who is suffering from substance use dependency can come in regardless of their level of healthcare coverage, uninsured, underinsured population, and receive world-class healthcare service there. On the inside of our correctional facility, we've created a program that uses all three forms of FDA-approved medical assisted treatment therapy. We were the first county correctional facility in the country to do that. And we combine that with cognitive behavioral therapy to break addiction. This program has been so successful that 2 participants in the program, inmates, have petitioned their judges to extend their sentences because for the first time in many years, they were getting clean. And believing in keeping taxes low, we had the executives from Walmart come to my office, deliver me and hand me a check for $500,000, and then pledge to come back every single year with a $250,000 a year a gift to make sure that they're helping sustain the work that we're doing. Now we have been in conversation with our county and with our cities here in Seminole County, and they have allocated $9 million, again, between the county and the cities, $9 million at our request to treat mental health conditions within our community. These are all big concerns. And let me put some numbers for your listeners and viewers so they can put this in perspective. We do a better job in tracking these numbers than anywhere else in the state, if not the country. And these numbers are the same or worse in jurisdictions anywhere you look. But since January to December of 2021, this most recent year, we have had 852 overdoses, 125 overdose deaths, and our public safety professionals have deployed the life-saving drug Narcan, naloxone, more than 750 times, or have brought people back to life with the use of medicine 750 times. Baker Acts. Baker Acts are involuntary admissions for mental health treatment and counsel. We've done that nearly 3,700 times last year. So this next quarter, this first quarter of this year, we will be announcing a new partnership, an expanded partnership with some providers to open up the first of its kind crisis stabilization center that will work in harmony with our Hope and Healing Center that Advent Health runs. So a lot of exciting things. And of course, we're providing services to parents that have children that are on the verge of delinquency or delinquent themselves, because if we fix this cycle, we're protecting and sustaining our community. If you're the son or a daughter of somebody who's incarcerated or addicted to a substance, you are 8 times more likely to engage in maladaptive behavior yourself. So a lot of stuff going on here, and we're pushing hard to make sure that we're changing laws and we're advocating for the right type of partnerships to keep people healthy.
You know, absolutely. You know, rehabilitating lives, saving 750 souls. It's incredible. The statistics you mentioned. It's not only about serving and protecting, but going above and beyond that, partnering and collaborating with Walmart's. I know Leadership Seminole. We were part of the Advent Help, Hope and Healing Center, sponsoring the first 15 individuals going through that program. So it does work. And true testament as a father who has a addiction, a daughter who has addiction. It was close to my heart. And thank you for what you're doing, Sheriff Lemma out there. Speaking of your leadership, because true leaders embody the influence in your team to make this all happen. Let's transition and talk a little bit about some leadership points. So first, Sheriff Lemma, is there something you do in your spare time that aids you to thrive in your professional life?
Yeah, so I'm a family man. I'm a husband. I'm a father, and I think that those core values that make up a family component is a greatest example, or is the greatest example of what we should be doing within our businesses, our corporations, in the space that we have the opportunity to live in. A lot of people say, "Well, treat your work like a family." Well, it's not like a family; it is a family. And I think that is incredibly important. Second is, I think that we, and I try to do this as much as I can, embrace a concept of perpetual learning and constantly looking for self-improvement, how to advocate not only for yourself as an individual, but what ideas and what strategies will help those that I have the opportunity to influence. And as a result of that, I've met some incredible people who have helped shape my life. One is most recently, I had the opportunity to attend some meetings and workshop and build some friends with some remarkable people. One is Bob Chapman, who is the CEO of the company Barry Waymiller, who was ranked the top 3 most successful business leaders for his corporation that employs and has a family of 12,000. And one of the takeaways that he has shared with me was that everybody is somebody's precious child. And he has brought into his space this active listening techniques that works incredibly well. I've also have become extremely close with author Simon Sinek, that kind of focuses on finding your why. Simon and I and many others collaborate pretty regularly every few weeks on different leadership tactics and strategies, and are working now with a group of law enforcement leaders to we hope reshape and redefine what police in America looks like. He's been a great influence to me as well. So I think it's digging in. Many would think that, okay, if you're the sheriff or you're the CEO, or if you're at that point where you no longer want to ascend to any other role, that you've accomplished and you made it. And I would argue that that's just the starting point.
That's wonderful to hear. And I tell you that, as you mentioned earlier, you mentioned, poor parenting, but there's also poor leadership, right? There's people who are in positions, they just don't handle it right. They're not prepared for that platform at the time, and so can't really execute as we would want them to. What advice did you get as you was emerging as a leader that has stuck with you and you would like to share with another emerging leader right now?
Well, I will tell you that I have always in my career, both here at the sheriff's office and even before, whether it's military or any job that I had or environment that I've been in prior to this, I've always tried to make good decisions on who I select as my role models. And I think that is incredibly important. And, we talk about a lot of mentorship program, but some of that is on us, who we choose to want to emulate ourselves after. And I have been blessed here at the sheriff's office to have had great mentors who have provided opportunities, but there's never one time where I felt like I was deserving of anything. And I think that sometimes people get ahead of themselves where they start to spend their time, let's say they're a middle manager or they're coming up the ranks. I've seen people spend more time evaluating their leaders than the people who they are charged with caring for. And I think that that is a problem within the occupational trades in ascending as leaders. There is no guarantee, and every step on the ladder is an opportunity to succeed or fail. But if you see somebody that says, well, I've been a supervisor at this company for 2 years, I'm deserving of being a manager, that is a very, very dangerous space to operate in. That's one. Second, I think that what we have a void in this country of right now is proper displaying of empathy and altruism. An empathetic leader is one that is comfortable enough being potentially vulnerable. And then sometimes people ascend to leadership roles, they feel like there's an expectation that they have to know everything, they have to be the expert in every field, and that simply is not the case. As Simon Sinek mentions a lot, the CEO should not even be the CEO. They should be the chief vision officer, and they should set the goals, they should set the vision, and then make sure that there's competent professional teams that are supported that can help carry out that vision, that desire. But you have to be able to care for people. You have to be able to show empathy, both internally and externally, and feel comfortable enough with being vulnerable, which means on occasion, the leader has to say, I don't know the answer to this. I do know incredibly talented people that I can surround myself with that are experts in this field. If you think about it here at the sheriff's office, 30 years is a long time, and I've ascended the ranks, and I've come up, and I've worked in nearly every position that we have within the agency here. But we now employ attorneys and medical doctors and forensic experts and all of this, things that we have to trust, and we have to empower those people. But I think that the key things are find a mentor, embrace a concept of perpetual learning, and then show altruism, empathy, and sharpen your soft skills. Emotional intelligence is one of the most sought after things when it comes to establishing who a great and effective leader is. And if I asked all of your listeners and viewers to think about the best leader that they've ever had in their career or in their life for that matter, and list the characteristics or traits that person demonstrated to earn top spot on their list, I will argue that 90% of the time, it's going to be a soft skill. They cared about me. They were supportive of me. They were empowering. It's going to be some emotional intelligence. And unfortunately, many of the companies and many of the organizations that are listening in and watching in still have a dated, antiquated promotional process that checks all the boxes. How well do you test? How well do you know this? Let's start finding ways to test and evaluate for soft skills.
Totally agree with you, Sheriff Lemma. I call those superpowers that we have, and those what gets us to become more influential and impactful in life. So thank you for sharing those words of wisdom, and definitely find those mentors. And it's at your own destination to determine who that mentor is. I love those pearls of wisdom. Now, Sheriff Lemma, how do you handle either challenges you faced or currently facing today?
Well, it's incredibly difficult because, serving in a leadership role is never easy. Having an organization with 1,500 members, and inevitably you're going to have wonderful days, and then you're going to have days that are less rewarding, right? It's the human element, but in the end of the day, the leader lays their head on the pillow at night knowing that they are responsible for everything that occurs. I remember a little story. I remember having to separate a veteran member of our agency who happened to be in a supervisory role several years ago. And, I remember doing it and then meeting with the coworkers of this individual who, again, was very well liked, a veteran member of the agency. And they had asked me during my talk with them, did you have to terminate this person's employment? And I paused and I thought about that for a moment. And my response was unexpected. My answer was absolutely not. and they looked with a level of surprise. I said, as the sheriff, I could have done up to and including absolutely nothing. But what I did was in the best interest of creating the norms, customs, and values of this agency and in the general public's best interest. I will tell you, Vince, it was incredibly difficult. But in the end of the day, there's a reason why the leader ascends to those positions. It's not to shy away from some difficult, unfortunate occurrences. Now, I'm fortunate that that doesn't have to happen very often, but when it does, you have to move forward. I also try when time allows to seek counsel, because when you involve other people in decisions that affect others, you create this ownership and buy-in at various levels within the ranks. So if you're afforded the time, and in a military environment, and sometimes in a policing environment, you're simply not afforded the time. You got to make a decision. But when you're able to afford the time, seeking input and soliciting feedback is incredibly important and creates ownership and buy-in. And one of the things, we had a group of new members that I met with yesterday here. And I said, so you know, on day one, you become equal partners in this organization, with no greater or less stock than any other member here, not any less stock than me or any other member of the command staff. And when you empower people, you can be so pleasantly surprised on what comes out, because we all risk the hazards of becoming occupationally institutionalized to a set of practices and principles that simply have worked or we believed worked for many, many years. And then if somebody asks you, why do you do it this way? If we're really being truthful, more often than not, we would say, well, when I came into this role, this is the way that I was taught. We just have always done it this way. Fresh eyes, fresh perspective, and making people feel comfortable with voicing their concerns is incredibly important, because people who are working job scared or afraid don't make suggestions. They do what they're told to do, and then they tell the world off the job how ridiculous they think it is.
Yeah, I'm laughing at that because it is a true scenario. And if anybody knows anything about how that plays out, I often refer to, table talk. That's what happens when you go back to home and you're having dinner and you're saying, "Could you believe this?" And then you go on and talk about it. A lot of those decisions that you were talking about, especially the hard ones, often give us this opportunity for change and this opportunity for something else to happen. Uh, those drive you a certain, way. So, what certain strategies do you have to deal with change?
So I think that change is something that we have to embrace. I know that there's a little book out there that many people have read, Who Moved My Cheese? And, it's a great little book. If people who are listening or watching haven't read it, I suggest kind of looking that. But complacency can make us obsolete. And we look at the countless examples, whether it's Blockbuster Video or Kodak cameras or Circuit City. And when things started to change, we have to have enough ability to read the writing on the wall and adapt and adjust to those ever-changing environments. I remember taking a class up in Quantico. I was attending the FBI National Academy up in Quantico, Virginia. And I remember on the first day walking in, scrambling in, and I sat down in a class that I believed was a class that was titled Dealing with Organizational Change. And as soon as I sat down, there was a professor talking about the digital forensics and how computers can be forensically examined, and how the computer language talks to one another. It was a conversation that was way over my head and not one that I was prepared for. But I remember sitting in there close to the back row, looking to my left, looking to my right as I was thumbing through the book in pages, thinking to myself, what page are we on? I was just totally lost. And this went on for about 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, somebody sitting the one row that was left behind me stands up and said, "Hey, boss, I think I'm in the wrong class. I'm here to take a class on organizational change, and I have no clue what you're talking about." And at that moment in time, the professor hit a switch on the remote control. The screen changed to dealing with organizational change. And to the group's laughter, he said, "I sat here for over 20 minutes watching every single person's face in this room totally lost as I talked about a topic that is completely irrelevant to anything we're talking about. And quite frankly, a topic I know nothing about. But it took 20 minutes before one person had the courage to say anything." He said, "I was about to start saying the things that I had already said." But it was a great segue into this concept that sometimes when we're lost, we just freeze and we do nothing and we just sit there. You have to have the courage to step out and to embrace change. And after doing it a few times, we become more and more comfortable with it. But I think as a society and as a profession here, you have to adjust to those changes. Clearly, policing looks different now than it does when I first started 30 years ago, right? We weren't carrying medicine on our belts that brought people back to life. And there is this, some cases, twisted national narrative that is villainizing law enforcement, which is just not a reflection of the men and women who are serving their communities, working hard. We're still grateful here that in Seminole County, we serve a community that loves their first responders, their military personnel, their policing professionals. And my job is to make sure that our team preserves that so it's never lost. But embracing change, listening to small lessons like that, and thrusting ourselves down the path where we can take these little examples and memories. So when our cheese is moved, we don't go into crisis mode and hold on to something that simply won't sustain or won't last.
Absolutely great lessons, great stories. Those who are listening in, you have to hear all these great pearls of wisdom. We're just so grateful for the Sheriff's Office in Seminole County, for your leadership, Dennis Lemma. And for the folks listening in, how do they either contact you or the Sheriff's Office to be part of that wonderful organization?
Well, again, anything that I'm saying that any member of our agency can probably say these things even better than I can. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that they do. But to learn more about the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, you can follow us on any of our social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook. Just friend request us or follow our page, Seminole County Sheriff's Office. We also have a Sheriff's Office website, and I encourage you to do that because we send out crucial information that quite literally the media does not have the time to share, but great videos, a lot about our history and rewarding the hard work of the heroes that put that uniform on every single day, whether they're sworn, certified, or civilian. Again, I'm incredibly proud of them. Please follow us on our social media platforms. And if there's ever anything that we can do, you want a presentation, you want to hear more about some of these topics that I've talked about, just reach out to us and we would love to come out and give a presentation to your group, your organization, your agency, similar to what we've done with Camaraderie Foundation and many other groups.
Well, we definitely have been benefactors of those briefings. And I tell you that we're going to have that information as part of the video, the show notes, so folks can reach out to the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Lemma, thank you so much for not only your 30 years of service, your veteran status, but what you are doing. You're changing lives. You're protecting lives. You guys are risking your life on a daily basis. And we hear so many stories. So we pray, grace and mercy and protection over all of you in the Sheriff's Office. But folks, if you want to get a hold of us, The leadership void at gmail.com is where you will send an email requesting information or suggesting a topic or a guest that you would like to see. But for today, it's been all about Sheriff Lemma, all about the sheriff's office, the great community outreach, and the great leadership that is happening daily. And so we thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is definitely changing the narrative for the way the optics look for the police forces in the future of our country. And for those listening in, know that we have a subscription drive to reach our 200 subscriber on our YouTube channel, The Leadership Void. And those also will have a chance to have a great giveaway and a great book. So you have two options. One, that book that Enrique is holding, Standing Yo by Scott McGregor, is autographed, and also a chance to have a win of a suit, a business suit for a woman or female, male or female, excuse me. So please tune in, please subscribe on that, and look at our episode that talks about that with A-Rod. The next thing we have is our radio check. We check on our brothers and sisters, both on the first responder and also our veteran community. It's called Radio Check, 1st and the 15th of every month at 1900, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please go there. LinkedIn Live. We just want to check in our brothers, make sure we hit the mark, holistic approach. We want to check on your mental health as well as you checking on ours. Next week, we'll go to another dynamic veteran in the community doing great things. And all this is possible by a sponsor from the home team of Round Point Mortgage Service Corporation. Thank you for being our sponsor. But thank you, Sheriff Lemma, for being our wonderful guest today and changing lives in Seminole and Florida.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and great seeing you guys again. And thank you for your service as well.